Hello everyone and welcome to a new Gaming Academy tutorial. In this video I will teach you step by step how to become the best mid laner you have ever been. So, pay attention until the end because we will talk about everything you need to do as a mid laner from the beginning of the game to the end of it. You voted for this topic, so I'm waiting for your feedback on how much it helped you. Let's start the guide now and talk about champion select and champion pool. It doesn't matter if you play assassin or mage, because any mid lane champion has a great win rate potential, and the same game rules apply to everyone, which makes this guide perfect for you. The only difference between these types of champions is the effect of their abilities. Mages are champions whose skills give a lot of magic damage, while assassins are high burst champions, most of them being AD champions. For all mid lane champions, roaming is necessary and is done the same way. So don't worry and adapt this guide to the champion you love. As summoner spells you can choose teleport or ignite depending on the champion you play and your style. I reached at least diamond playing only with ignite, but recently I prefer to use teleport more often. For example, I would play Xerath only with barrier or teleport and never with ignite, while on Ahri or Zed I choose only ignite. Aggressive players will choose flash and ignite for the kill pressure. More passive laners will take flash and any of barrier, exhaust, teleport, heal, or cleanse. These choices are matchup and team composition specific. Barrier, exhaust, and heal are great for fighting burst champions. Teleport is taken in a lane where you expect to get harassed in lane and need to recall often. Cleanse is ideal if the enemy mid laner and jungler have multiple forms of crowd control. But that is less important, so let's move on to the laning phase. In the laning phase trading is the most important. The way you enter trades with the enemy will decide if you win the lane or not. Auto attacks are the first form of damage trading in lane. A key to understanding auto attack trades is to understand auto attack range. The greater the gap in auto attack range between two champions, the easier it is for the champion with the higher range to get in auto attacks. Mid laners often pack more damage into their spells, but auto attacks still add up in lane. In addition to auto attacks, champion spells are the second form of damage trading in lane. The three pieces of information you must keep track of for spells are range, cooldown, and whether or not the spells pass through minions. Longer range spells make it easier to harass your opponent without retaliation, like having a longer auto attack range. Spell cooldowns must be tracked so you can prioritize trades when your spells are up and the enemy laner's spells are still on cooldown. Spells that cannot pass through minions can be easily avoided by standing behind your own minion wave. Landing these spells on the enemy requires taking the enemy minion wave into consideration before using the spell. Vision is also important in the laning phase. Despite being the shortest lane in the game, mid lane can be attacked from all directions due to its central map location. This makes understanding how and when to ward very important in lane. Unlike top or bot lane, there is no obvious early timing to put down a warding totem in preparation for an enemy gank. This is because junglers tend to either end up on the top or bot sides of the map after their initial jungle clear. Junglers paying to mid early can and does happen, but that is atypical and harder to predict. When you do put a warding totem down early, you can only cover one of your top and bot sides. Although it does not give vision of both sides, the information revealed can be useful enough to feel safe in lane. Playing to the side of the lane your ward is on allows you to avoid the dark area of the map. For example, warding the top side mid brush allows you to play on the top side of mid lane and avoid the unwarded bot side mid brush altogether. As the game progresses, more warding totem charges will be stored, and you will be able to place a ward on each side of the lane for more coverage. Vision wards can and should also be purchased to supplement your vision. These vision wards should be placed inside brushes closest to your turret so you are better able to defend them from an enemy attempting to destroy them. Vision wards on your side of the map also allow your jungler to feel safe ganking your lane undetected. Mid laners will often swap their warding totems out for an oracle lens or farsight alteration later in the game. Assassins or pick-oriented mages will prefer an oracle lens to sweep out enemy wards and catch out an unsuspecting enemy alone. Long-range poke mages will prefer a farsight alteration to get deeper vision than a warding totem can offer. Farsight alteration can also be useful for finding and sniping out a low-health enemy from long range. For this early phase, I left the last wave management to make sure you are paying attention to the first two. It is important to take stock of the minion waves when going for damage trades in lane. When you damage an enemy champion, the enemy minions will turn their focus from your minions to your champion. So trades are more beneficial to you when your minion wave is bigger than the enemy minion wave. If the enemy minion wave is much larger than your own, you will want to avoid going for a trade that might otherwise seem in your favor. It is harder to freeze a minion wave mid than it is in top or bot lane. The wave crashes into the turret faster because the lane is shorter, making it functionally harder to freeze. The short nature of the lane also makes it less dangerous to walk up to a frozen minion wave because it is a shorter distance back to your own turret. This makes pushing the minion wave almost always the optimal strategy as a mid laner. The most obvious benefit of pushing a wave is forcing it to crash into the enemy tower to make the enemy mid laner stay in lane nor miss that experience and gold. Pushing the wave also gives you priority on the map because you are able to move more quickly than the laner who is still forced to deal with a minion wave. The enemy mid laner must choose to either be late moving on the map or give up experience, gold, and damage to their turret by ignoring the minion wave. When this happens, it is the perfect opportunity for roaming. Roaming is very impactful for a mid laner because it is the center lane on the map. You are always a threat to help out top or bot lane. Mid laners are also usually the closest to their jungler and as such can make plays on the map together. It is important to first tend to your minion wave before you roam. Ideally, you will get the minion wave pushed into the enemy turret and then look to roam. You can still roam if you clear the minion wave after the enemy mid clears theirs, but you will have lost tempo on your map movement. You also need to be aware of the situation on the map you are moving toward. Your allies should have enough health and mana to support you in your gank. It is also helpful if your allies can communicate to you what summoner spells the enemies still have available. You must be sure that you have a safe path to the lane you want to roam on. The enemy jungler can block your path if you do not have sufficient wards or information on the jungler's whereabouts. Roaming is usually done during the early to mid stages of the game, especially during the laning phase. This is because the likelihood of gaining a kill or achieving your goal is far more probable, since enemies will be more likely to be in isolation or fewer numbers. With the recent changes to towers gaining armor plating, the laning phase has seen a notable extension with the towers become more difficult to destroy. Thankfully, this means that one mistake will no longer cost you your tower. Because of this extension to the early game, roaming is now a necessity rather than something you might do. After successfully roaming to a lane, you may be able to apply pressure to the enemy's tower and their gold plates. Applying pressure and taking their tower will open up the map for you and your team, which can make roaming a whole lot easier. You may also be able to continuously gank a lane and put the enemy behind if they have to overextend for farm. This will allow you to repeatedly roam back and forth to their lane and kill them over and over again. This is a cheesy way to make roaming more successful, and it really works. Just remember that roaming can allow your struggling laners to get back in the game, it can open up the map, and it can also give your team an increased amount of gold. When roaming to another lane, always keep your intentions in mind and make sure to only roam if you can get something out of it. The mid-game and late-game phase as a mid laner, you have to stay with the team and get as many objectives as possible, and here I'm not just referring to dragons and Rift or Baron. Destroy towers, force fights if you have an advantage, share buffs with your jungler, try as much as you can to help weaker teammates finish their items if you are already full. I've seen many players who had the full build but were still farming for stats when their ADC was missing one item. Every little detail counts. League of Legends is a team game. Next, I'm going to give you some golden tips for mid lane that will radically change the way you play. Mid lane allows you to experiment with champions that are weak earlier in the game. Try out some champions like Veigar and Kassadin that scale well as the game progresses. Also make sure you track the enemy jungler as best you can before going for trades in lane. With so many points of entry to the lane, the jungler could show up in a bad spot if you get too aggressive without vision. You should know that river vision is especially important for mid laners. You are the most likely to need to help your jungler if he gets in trouble. River vision is also crucial to making safe roams. Placing a vision ward in top or bot river brush is always a valuable location. Also, shoving the minion wave is a great way to help your jungler. With priority on the map, you can walk with him to invade the enemy jungle. There you too can look to pick off the enemy jungler or put down wards to track his movements. Heal can be a great summoner spell choice if you plan on making a lot of plays with your jungler. The secondary portion of the heal effect can give you a boost in a 2v2 or 2v1 situation, and teleport could be used to gank other lanes fast or after roaming to come back fast in mid lane. And make sure when you roam that it is likely you can catch out the enemy laners. You want your allies to have crowd control or for the enemy to be overextended in their lane. There is no point to roam to an enemy laner that is full health under their own turret. Having said that, I went through a fairly complex mid lane guide, but that's not enough. We explain them in vain if we don't put them into practice. Practice is the mother of learning. Try to take into account as many details as I have told you in this guide, and you will improve with each additional game. If you like the tutorial, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel to be up to date with each upload. If you have questions that are not found in the video, don't hesitate because I answer everything with enthusiasm and maximum detail. Do not miss the tutorials posted previously because you can find a lot of information about the role of mid and roaming there as well. Thank you very much for your attention and I wish you all happy holidays. At the same time, tell me which tutorials you would like me to upload next and which aspects I should emphasize more. See you in the next video.